So good morning. Today we will start another technique of the construction or the points that we are covering in this third unit of construction techniques. So another technique we will start today, that is grouting. And particularly grouting, it can be done in any type of soil. It may be a soft soil or a hard soil. And by hard soil, I don't mean a rock, but hard soil is nothing but a compacted or a soil which has undergone weathering and it has overlying layers due to which it has become stiff kind of thing. So that kind of soil is hard soil. So we will be seeing the grouting in such types of soil. But before we go to grouting, we would see that actually why do you require a grouting? Now, if you say that suppose I am constructing a road, and in road construction, whatever is the soil used, so if I compact it very well, I compact it up to a maximum dry density with optimum moisture content. So there should not be any chance that it fails. But then too, we have seen such scenarios as you see in these pictures. The top one, it is a landslide site in which a ghat section or a hill road, it has been blocked due to this partial displacement of soil or the partial displacement of this hill face. Or even in the second figure at the bottom right, so it's a road and only a particular part of the road it has been settled or washed away. Okay, so these are some of the typical failures that we come across, and in India you can come across or you'll hear of such failures very often in the monsoon period, when you hear that there are landslides in the ghat sections and the roads have been washed away. So that is our problem. As a civil engineer, we have to tackle that problem, that there should not be such kind of a failure of embankment or slope, or landslide also it should not happen, or nor there should be any settlement in your structure whatever you create. Okay. So for solving this problem, as a civil engineer, we have a solution to it, that is soil stabilization. Now, soil stabilization, you might have heard of this term before, or might be you might be hearing it for the first time. But anyway, soil stabilization, it is nothing but, from the name itself, you can derive something, that whatever is the soil, existing soil in the on the site, so you are trying to make it stable. Okay. Now all this or both these images, they show that your soil, it was unstable and it was having a chance to move or settle. So that's why these kind of failures have taken place. So to stabilize that, we have different techniques how to stabilize your soil. So in different techniques, if we see methods of soil stabilization, so the first and very basic and very common and widely used method of soil stabilization is compaction. Okay. Compaction by road rollers. Now in this figure on the left hand side, figure number 1, if you see, so you will see there are 2 to 3 road rollers here. Okay. This is a conventional road roller. This is the roller section. This one is a sheep foot roller. It is generally used for soils, soft soils. So this is another type of roller. So just you lay the soil wherever you want to use it, either in an embankment or as a subgrade in a road, or for filling any excavated portion of your construction site. So you just lay your soil and you go on compacting it layer over layer. Okay. So you place one layer, then you compact it, then you place another layer, then again you compact it. So this goes on, and then you will achieve the required density. Mainly what we do by compaction is we achieve or we increase the density of your soil. Okay. And once you know that density of your soil increases, then its load carrying capacity and the settlement, what we are trying to avoid, that is also minimized if you have a properly densified soil. So compaction makes sure that you get that densified soil. Another method which is now gaining a lot of preferences on site, that is addition of reinforcement. And by reinforcement, I don't mean the actual steel bars that you see as a reinforcement in slab or a beam or a column. But in case of soil stabilization, this reinforcement is in form of moreover in form of a geosynthetics. So it can be a geotextile, it can be a geogrid, geonet, whatever it may be. Okay. So here on the left side, figure number 2, at the bottom, you see it's an example that the soil which is there on this side, so it is stabilized using this reinforcement, and this is mainly geotextiles which are placed in a grid formation. So these are placed somewhere in between the soil, due to which this soil will not fail from the slopes or from the toe section. So that is the second method of soil stabilization, that is addition of reinforcement. Okay. And again, reinforcement, it can be anything, any type of geosynthetic, geotextile, geopolymer, geogrid, geonet, or any kind of material that is available in market. Some more types of soil stabilization or methods of soil stabilization is another is pre-compression. This is also somewhat preferred kind of method, you can say. Now what you have in pre-compression, again figure number 1 if you refer, the top left one. So in pre-compression, suppose this is the land and you see this land, a typical circles you see all over the area. Okay, so these circles are formed due to pre-compression. Now what is done in pre-compression is, on this land, suppose I have to construct a building, but I know that the soil over here or the material over here, it's not that much suitable, or it will not be able to take the load of the structure itself. Okay, whatever is the foundation or whatever columns and beams or assembly you place over it, your strata is not able to, or it will not be able to take the load of that overlying structure. So before you actually place the structure over here, before I actually start excavating and start placing the foundation, what I will do is I will go for pre-compression. That is, whatever is the soil, I'll just keep a load on it. Okay, a heavy load on it I'll keep. Okay. Now this heavy load can be anything. It can be a huge concrete block. Okay. It may also be a huge stone, or it is generally a concrete block, a trapezoidal or a square shaped or a rectangle shaped concrete block, and it is lifted using this crane. In this figure you see on the right side, you can partially see a crane. Okay, so this crane will lift this or move this concrete block up and down, and then it is just placed over this strata for some time. Suppose for half an hour, 1 hour, this concrete block, it is placed over this area, and then it is, once the time is done, after half an hour or so, it is just lifted using that crane, and then it is placed on some other location. So due to that, what you see in this figure also, that you have a series of those circular marks. Now those circular marks are due to the concrete block, huge concrete block. In this case, it was a circular cross section which was placed over this land. Okay, and now this land has compressed, or pre-compression has been done to this land, and now it is in a position to take the load of the structure. Okay. Now again, this pre-compression, what we are doing by this pre-compression is, again we are trying to increase the density of your soil. Okay. So by just placing this load, I am sort of compacting it. Now in compaction, you know that you have a moving load. Okay, either you have a hammer which you drop it from some height, or you have a road roller, so that's a moving load what you have in compaction. But in pre-compression, what we have is, we have a heavy enough load which you do not move it, you just place it, static loading you give, and then you rely on the load that it will compress the soil or compact the soil, and by that the density will be increase. Now in compaction or in pre-compression, what we are doing is actually we are trying to remove the pore pressure. So whatever is the pore pressure due to the underlying water table, or it may be some moisture. So due to that, whatever is the pore pressure developed, so we are trying to break that pore pressure so that once the water is displaced, so the soil particles, they can rearrange themselves and they can come closer to each other, and in that way the density can be increased. So that is the pre-compression method of soil stabilization. Another method which is suitable for short or smaller areas, that is removal and replacement. Now you all have heard of expansive soils. The most famous that you have heard of is black cotton soil. So you know black cotton, it has a tendency to swell in presence of moisture and shrink in absence of moisture. So due to this shrinkage change or volumetric change, it's not desirable to place any foundation or any structure, or even not use it for parking lots or roads. Okay. So in that case, if you encounter such type of soil, so what you can do is you can simply remove and replace it. But the only condition is that the quantity which you are removing, or it's a small quantity that you have to deal with. Okay. So if it is of a larger quantity, so that removal and replacement, it will be very costly. So on the left side, figure number 2 on the bottom left, if you see, so it's a figure of a parking lot. Now it's taken from a case study that it was a parking lot in US, and after few years of construction of this parking lot, they saw that there was an uneven settlement in the parking lot. So investigation was done, and some area or wherever there was undulations in the parking lot, so that was excavated, and you see two colors here. You have this black color strata, dark gray and black color strata, and then you see some patches of red. Okay. So these patches of red, they are the actual soil, and there was only a small layer or a thin layer. Now compared to all this red soil layer, this black layer is thin. So there is a thin layer of an expansive soil which was there on this existing red strata. So this red strata was a sort of a solid kind of thing. It was a murum kind of soil. So it was having a much good load bearing capacity, but the problem was over that you had a layer of expansive soil. So due to this expansive soil, there was that undulation. So what they had to do is, now in this case, if you see, the quantity that they have to remove, that is less. So that's why they went for removal and replacement. So they removed the black cotton soil, whichever was on the top, till they got this red type of soil which was having a good load bearing capacity, and then they just replaced this black soil with a similar kind of red soil, or a soil which had a good load bearing capacity. So that is the another method of soil stabilization, that is removal and replacement. Okay. Keep in mind that this is only efficient only if you have less quantities of soil to remove and replace. Okay, so it will not work for a huge land site. So this is one of the method. And yeah, last two methods in soil stabilization, you have the blast densification is one of the method. Now again, figure number 1 on the left side, what you see. So it's a pretty unusual method, blast densification. What we are doing is we are actually blasting or doing a blast in the area wherever you want to increase the density of the soil. So you can see in this figure number 1 on the left side. So it's an open land. You have to use this land for some kind of construction, but the soil is not having that much density. So you do a controlled blast. Okay. Now what happens in blast is you have a area, and in controlled blasting or blast densification, you drill some boreholes to a certain depth, up to what depth you want the densification. So to that depth, you create holes in your ground, and then you fill that with the charge. Okay. charge or whatever is the chemical you are going to use for blasting. So you fill it with that and then you detonate it. Okay, detonate it by either by electrical means, mainly by electrical means it's detonated. Now what will happen is once there is a blast, whatever is the material here, obviously it will be dislodged, but we are not bothered about the material which is dislodged. We are bothered about whatever are the waves which will be created due to this blast. Okay. So those waves, they will be helpful to us. Okay. Now they will be helpful to us in what way? That now you see in this area, you had two boreholes. If you only concentrate on this area, so you had two holes in which you had placed the charge and then you detonated it. Due to that, there were waves created. Now these waves, both are in opposite direction. So what they do is, whatever is the pore pressure, okay, or water, so they expel that water or remove that water. Due to heat also, that water will be evaporated, and due to this waves, there is a pressure created due to which that water will be, or the pore pressure will be just removed, and your again soil particles, they will rearrange themselves to increase the density of the soil in this portion. So that is what is meant by blast densification. Now, as I told you, it's an unusual method because it's not preferred. Because on one side we are saying that it's densifying the soil, that's a good thing, but on other hand you also have a lot of negative impacts of this blast densification. Obviously that you are blasting something, so you are disturbing the strata completely. Might be the ecology around that area, it will also get disturbed. If there is a groundwater source which is being used by some of the residents over there, so it may get contaminated due to this blasting. So there are a lot of negative effects of this blast densification, so it's generally avoided. In very rare cases or unusual cases, it is preferred. And the last method of soil stabilization, it is fixation. Now this is the method that we are going to discuss in detail. Fixation, it is nothing but just, again, if you see the figure on the left hand side, so it is one of the methods of fixation. That what is done is, this brown color is the actual soil, but it is not having that much property or not having the proper strength or density. So what is done is, this gray color layer that you see, so it is a fly ash layer. Okay, so you know what is a fly ash? It's a waste product which is obtained from the thermal factories or where the coal is being burned. So you get fly ash. So that fly ash, it is generally a waste, but it has some good properties, pozzolanic properties. So when you mix it with soil, you can improve the properties of soil. Suppose if your soil is not having that much density, okay, maximum dry density is too low, suppose 1.2 gram per cc or 1 gram per cc. So by adding fly ash and then compacting it, then your density increases maybe to 1.5 gram per cc. So that is nothing but one method of fixation, what you can see here. So in fixation, again, if you see what is theoretically, what is the definition of fixation is, whatever are the soil properties, as I told you that soil properties are weak for a particular soil. So we are trying to change those properties by which your soil, it will improve in strength and improve in strength, compressibility and permeability. Okay. So the strength increases by decreasing the compressibility. Compressibility is the ability of a soil to get compressed. So if that is less, that means your soil is already dense enough so that there is no further chance of compressing that soil. And also if your permeability is less, that means you have less water content or less pore pressure in your soil itself, so that less pore pressure will help in improving the density. So fixation is nothing but we are having some soil which is not good, we are generally adding that soil or adding some additives to that soil, which will give us a good soil which will have a good strength basically. So that is nothing but fixation. Now within fixation itself, you have different methods by which you can vary these additives. Okay, so in the last figure, in this figure, figure number 2 at the bottom left, what you saw this fly ash. So this fly ash was one kind of additive in this case of fixation. Now instead of fly ash, if I have some other kind of additives that can be added, so then your technique or name of the technique changes. So within fixation itself, we are having this technique called grouting. And now we come to our actual topic, that what is grouting. So I gave you an overview of the soil stabilization method because grouting, it is one of the methods of stabilizing the soil. Now you will ask then why we are only particularly concerned about grouting. Why aren't we discussing anything about blast densification or compaction or reinforcement? So you have other courses as well that you learn, geotechnical engineering, or in next semester you will be learning foundation engineering. So in that you will be covering all these topics. Okay? But grouting, it is not covered in detail in any of the other syllabus. So that's why it's included over here, and that's why we are discussing it. Okay. So now coming to grouting, in the figure on the right side, you see it's a general setup for a grouting of a soil strata. And what is it actually? So it is a process of injecting suitable fluid material, and that fluid material, it is injected under some pressure, obviously, because if there is no pressure given to that fluid material, it will not penetrate into the soil strata, whatever we are desiring to improve the properties of. Okay? So it's a process of injecting suitable fluid under pressure into a soil or a rock formation. Sometimes if your rock is having too much crevices or cracks in it, so in that case also grouting can be helpful for adhering everything, or making the filling the cracks, and then making that whole rock act as a one unit. So it can be used in soil as well as in rock. And what happens is, once you inject this fluid, the properties or the characteristics, physical characteristics of your strata, it will change, obviously, because you are adding something, and due to that your soil will be improved or strength will be improved. So it's same, it comes under types of it comes under the category of fixation, because in fixation it's the same thing that we are doing, soil plus additives. Just now we have seen that it was fly ash, but now instead of fly ash we are using a liquid which is called a grout. Okay. And this grout will be able to change the properties of your soil strata. Okay. So obviously the material that is used in this grouting process, it is called a grout. On the right side, if you see, it's a, I told you it's a typical assembly for grouting, a very sophisticated assembly. So if you see, there are a lot of black pipes that you see which are coming out of this part of that machine. Okay, so what is happening here is, these pipes, they are injecting this fluid material, okay, or they are injecting that grout, and that grout is stored in this chamber, and then it is injected using, or it is injected under pressure. So that's why you have pipe and whole assembly. Okay. And if you see, it's an movable assembly. That means this whole chamber along with the pipes, it can move in this direction. So maybe this is for a big excavation pit that they have taken out, and in that excavation pit they want to improve the properties of the soil strata. So in that case, such kind of machines can be used. So this is a very sophisticated machine of grouting that I have shown. This kind of machine, again, it is used only if you have a large quantum of work and you have less time. So in that case, you can go for such big sophisticated machine. Otherwise, you can have different methods of grouting as well. We'll be seeing that in a couple of next lectures. So this is grouting. And if I just summarize that, what is the application where you can use grouting? So firstly, you can use it in underground works. Okay. if you have some cracks that you have to seal it, and you have overlying layers, so there you can go for grouting. Now again, a good example for this is any leakages that you have underground. Okay, suppose you have a drainage system and you have a leakage over there, so that leakage is due to some crack which is there in the structure. It may be a crack in the water tank or in the crack in the pipe uh, which is carrying the water. So there you can, instead of just excavating everything and replacing the pipe, if it's just a crack, then you can go for grouting. Then again, if you are having a building, and if there is a defect in your masonry work or brick work, or if you have a pavement is nothing but a road, and if there are defects underneath that pavement, and you know that there is a crack over there or there is a void over there, so in that case you can use, or you can go for grouting. Then again, filling voids between lining and rock face in case of tunnel work. So this also will be covering in detail in the next unit of tunneling, but for now, just to understand that tunnel is nothing but you excavate a hole into your hill or mountain, and then you have to make it a smooth surface. So if you make it a smooth surface like this, so there is obviously gaps in between the natural rock cut and this artificial lining that you have created. So this is filled with grout. Okay. Then to control seepage in case of soil, okay, you have a soil area or a land in which there is a lot of seepage from the adjoining side. So that you can control using the grouting. Stabilize the soil, we have seen in detail what is stabilization. And then it is also used for fixing ground anchors for sheet piles, concrete piles, retaining walls. Now what is all this? Sheet pile, it is nothing but it is another method of increasing the density of your soil. Okay. Generally it is used in sandy soils. We have seen dredging techniques. So in dredging we have seen that there is man-made island that can be made, and that man-made island, if it is of mainly sand, so to improve the density of that man-made island, because ultimately you are going to construct something over it, so in that case sheet piles are used. Okay. Concrete piles are also used in case of normal type of soil. Okay. So in these sheet piles and concrete piles, it's not just one pile, you have a series of piles, and this series of piles, they will form a wall. Okay. So to make sure that this wall, it is properly connected to the ground or to whatever depth you are desiring, so for that you can use grouting. And same is the case for retaining wall. Retaining wall you all must have seen at some point of time. It's a concrete wall, rectangular or trapezoidal in shape, and which retains earth on one side. So generally you can see this a lot in hill roads, that there is retaining wall which stops the movement of the soil. Okay. So these are the applications of your grouting. And if you see in all these applications, what was there is, there was some crack or there was some kind of void, and instead of removing all the things and then checking where is the void, you could just simply use the grout, because grout, we have seen, it is a liquid, and this liquid, it can be injected under pressure. So it's a liquid plus we are injecting it under pressure, so that will give an advantage to us that we can actually reach to such areas where whole excavation is not necessary. You just pour in the liquid, and it will go on following the crack and start filling it. But another complementary thing or complementary technique that you need along with grouting is, you need something to detect these cracks first. Okay. Now, as you have seen in all these applications, most of the cracks, they are underground. So how we'll come to know that there is a crack underground or there is a void below your pavement or below your foundation? So for that, you need some technique to detect that void first. And once you know that okay, here are the cracks, here are the voids, then you can go for grouting technique. So keep that in mind, that grouting, it is supplementary thing that you need along with grouting. It is the crack detection system. Okay. So now we are talking about this grout that we have to inject this liquid. Now, what is this liquid actually? How does it look like? So you have two types of liquids or two types of grouts you can use. One is suspension grout. Now, the suspension grout is nothing but a simple mixture of water along with any cementitious material. So I have given some examples over here. So water in association with cement or lime, or even water in association with some good quality soil, or bituminous emulsion, that is nothing but a suspension grout. So on the right side, if you see figure number 1, you can see this white layer. So this white layer is nothing but, or you can see this truck which is spraying this white layer. So this is nothing but the lime grout. So lime, you know, it's white in color. So I just mix lime with water, and under pressure you just spray it or apply it over the soil and mix it later on if you want. So that is lime grout. On the extreme right, top right, you see again there is a tanker which is spraying some kind of liquid. So this is the bituminous emulsion. Okay. So bitumen, it is a material. It is a viscoelastic material which is obtained from the petroleum refinery as a byproduct. So that along with some emulsifiers and water, you get emulsions, bituminous emulsion, and that also you can spray it over the soil to improve its stability. Okay. And the third figure on the bottom you see, so it's again a tanker which is just pouring some slurry. So this is the cement slurry. So water in association with cement. So this is nothing but suspension grout. So whatever is the solid particles, we are just suspending it into the water and we are spraying it under pressure. And the second type of grout, it is solution grout. Now solution grout, it is more of a chemical kind of grout in which you have different kind of compounds or chemicals. You see in this figure, I have shown two compounds. Now this first one on the extreme right, the brown color powder you see. So that is lignosulfide derivative or lignosulfide powder. Okay. So this powder you mix it with water or some solvent, and then it will form a slurry, and then you can use it as a grout. Or in this second figure, you can see some yellow color kind of plastic kind of thing. So those are phenolic resins or phenoplast resins. Again, this resins, obviously resins, they are not soluble in water, so you dissolve it in some solvent in which it is soluble, and then you get that grout. So this is nothing but the second type of grout, that is solution grout. So if you see, it's a single phase system. Single phase as in this, whatever is your chemical, it will dissolve in that solvent and then it will form a one single system. But in suspension grout, though we are mixing water and suppose lime or cement or bitumen, but it will not form a single unit. It will always have those particles of cement or particles of lime which will be in suspension in that water. Okay. So that is the difference between your solution grout and your suspension grout. So we'll stop here for today, and in the next lecture we will see the types of grout.